Have you ever wondered what it would be like if a mask, an object of disguise, could come to life? Our story unfolds with a young girl, a budding artist with a heart full of imagination and hands eager to create. As the calendar pages turn closer to the end of October, a thrill runs through her, as crisp as the autumn air outside. Halloween, the night of spooks and shadows, is near. This year, however, store-bought costumes won't do. No, she decides to create her own disguise, a mask, a face to hide behind as she ventures into the night. The mask begins as a simple piece of cardboard, blank and unassuming. But with each stroke of her paintbrush, each piece of glitter, and every sequin she adds, it transforms. From a lifeless piece of cardboard, it morphs into a masterpiece of ghoulish delight. Her heart beats with excitement, her eyes sparkle with joy as she meticulously crafts the mask. There's a sense of pride in her work, a thrill that only comes from creating something with your own hands. The mask is nearly complete, but it lacks that final touch, that spark of life. In a moment of inspiration, she cuts a small lock of her hair, her dark strands falling onto the table. Carefully, she picks them up and with a dab of glue, affixes them to the mask. The mask, now complete, sits on the table, staring back at her with hollow eyes. Its painted face is a mirror of her own creativity and enthusiasm, a testament to her artistic abilities. She gazes at it, a smile playing on her lips. She's created a disguise, a new face for the night of fright. Little did she know, she just created something more than a simple Halloween mask. This mask, adorned with her own hair, holds a secret that would soon unfurl itself, taking her and us on a spine-chilling journey of horror and suspense. When life is breathed into the lifeless, the unnatural manifestations begin. Our little artist began to sense a peculiar shift in her environment. The once familiar corners of her room seemed to harbor an eerie chill. The playful shadows now danced with an unsettling rhythm. But the most disconcerting change was the mask. This once lifeless object, a mere creation of her hands, now seemed to possess an uncanny semblance of life. Left on her desk, she would find it in different positions, sometimes turned towards the window, sometimes facing her bed. It was as if it moved when she wasn't looking, like a mischievous child playing a prank. But the strangeness didn't end there. The mask, now more than just an inanimate object, began to mirror her. When she would laugh, the mask's painted mouth would curve into a smile. When she would frown, the mask would mimic her expression with an uncanny accuracy. It was as if it was not just a mask anymore, but a living reflection of her. Despite the eeriness of it all, she tried to convince herself that it was all in her imagination. After all, she was a child with a vivid mind, prone to concoct bizarre fantasies. But the mask's activities only escalated, becoming more blatant, more assertive. The air grew dense with suspense as the girl's unease grew. The mask, once a symbol of innocent creativity, was now a source of unexplained terror. Its painted eyes seemed to follow her around the room, its expressions mirroring her own emotions. The lock of her hair pasted on it seemed to pulsate with a life of its own. The line between reality and imagination blurred. The mask, once a harmless Halloween project, was now a living entity. The girl found herself caught in a web of fear and confusion. She was left to wonder whether she was merely a puppet in the hands of her own creation. She started to question, was it all just her imagination, or was the mask truly alive? The line between imagination and reality starts to blur when the mask reveals its true nature. As the sun sets on another October day, the mask, once a playful accessory, morphs into something far more menacing. The mask, adorned with a lock of the girl's own hair, starts to awaken, its dormant life force stirring. The girl watches in disbelief as the mask begins to mimic her voice, a sinister echo that sends chills down her spine. The mask, now animated by an unseen force, starts to show malevolent tendencies. It's no longer just a mask. It's a living, breathing entity, echoing her thoughts, her fears, and her dreams. The girl listens, horrified, as the mask starts to speak in her voice. It's a strange and terrifying phenomenon, like hearing your own voice from deep within a nightmare. The mask's intentions soon become clear. It wants to take over her body, to possess her completely. The girl, terrified, tries to resist. But there's a strange magnetism to the mask, a dark allure that she can't shake off. It's as if the mask is connected to her, an eerie reflection of her own self. As the mask continues to speak, its threats growing more ominous, the girl feels a growing sense of dread. She can't escape the fact that this is her own creation, a creation that now threatens to consume her. She's trapped in a horrifying reality, her worst nightmare come to life. Yet, there's something captivating about this whole experience. The girl is terrified, but she's also fascinated by the mask and its powers. She's caught in a terrifying tug-of-war, her fear battling her curiosity. Will she give in to the mask's threats, or will she find the courage to fight back? She was trapped in a horrifying reality, her own creation threatening to consume her. When your own creation turns against you, what do you do? In the throes of desperation, our young protagonist musters up the courage to face her creation. She decides to destroy the mask. With every ounce of her strength, she attempts to rip it apart, tear it to shreds, break it into a million pieces. But the mask, the face she once crafted with such delight, now imbued with a life of its own, is impervious. She tries to pry the lock of her hair from the mask, the very strand that gave it life. But it's glued solidly, intertwined with the mask as if it were its own. It's a part of the mask now, and the mask, it's a part of her. The mask taunts her, its laugh chilling her to the bone. It's no longer just a mask, it's a living nightmare, a part of her that she can't escape. With each passing moment, the mask grows stronger. It feeds off her fear, her desperation, her despair. She tries to fight it, to resist it, but it's like fighting a shadow, a ghost, a part of herself she never knew existed. She feels her strength waning, her resolve crumbling. She's just a child after all, a child battling her own creation, her own nightmare. It's a battle she's losing, a struggle she's slowly succumbing to. Each attempt to destroy the mask only makes it stronger. Each tear shed only fuels its power. She feels it, the mask's strength growing, its hold on her tightening. She's fighting a losing battle, a war she never asked for. She's trapped in a war against herself, against the mask, against the very creation she once took pride in. She's losing, and the mask, the monstrous creation she brought to life, it's winning. And as she stands there, the tears streaming down her face, the mask laughing in her face, she realizes the horror of her situation. She was losing the battle against her own creation. The mask was growing stronger. In the face of despair, do you surrender or do you fight? In our tale, the answer is clear. Our young protagonist, filled with a courage that belies her tender age, chooses to fight. She refuses to be the victim of her own creation, the Halloween mask that has come to life with a piece of her very essence. She knows that the time for fear has passed. This is the time for action. A plan begins to form in her mind, a plan that is as daring as it is desperate. She decides to confront the mask, to take on the terrifying entity that threatens to consume her. The stakes couldn't be higher. It's not just her body, but her very soul that is on the line. She's not just battling a mask. She's battling a piece of herself, a piece that has turned against her, threatening to engulf her whole. The tension is palpable as she prepares for this final showdown. Every move she makes, every breath she takes is filled with a sense of urgency. She gathers all her resources, all her strength, all her willpower. She knows this is a battle she cannot afford to lose. Her heart pounds in her chest as she faces the mask. It's a chilling sight, a grotesque caricature of her own face animated by a lock of her own hair. But she does not flinch. She does not falter. She stands her ground, ready to fight for her life, ready to reclaim her soul. As she squares off with the mask, there's a moment of eerie silence, a moment that seems to stretch into infinity. The air is thick with anticipation, with the weight of the unknown, and then she makes her move. As she faced the mask, she knew it was her or the mask, but what happened next? That, my dear friends, is a story for another time. Y'all, we're wrapping up here, but don't you go anywhere just yet. Show some love, hit that like button. Fancy more content like this? Go on, subscribe and let that bell icon ring so you won't miss a beat. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, sharing is caring. Until next time, stay tuned.